Former and potentially next president Donald Trump officially endorses Bitcoin. Kind of. We'll talk about that and what it means for our space if he gets reelected. Also, speaking of Bitcoin, a massive email thread from Satoshi from 2008 and 2009 has been released via the Craig Wright lawsuit. He answers some questions like, why 21 million coins? Why proof of work? We're going to talk about that and uncover what Satoshi was thinking back over 15 years ago. Also, the Uniswap token gained over 50% in a matter of hours. What is behind the big move? And we're also going to talk about Avalanche going down. Is this going to be another Solana-like situation? And should you be worried as an AVAX holder? We got that and much, much more in today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's get right into it. Your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we're the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel. We take old, boring, and stale information, repackage that thing up in a fun and sexy way. Man, oh man, what a great interview you had yesterday. A lot of new faces, I'm sure, tuned into the channel. And if you're new here, say hello. We'll drop an old lot back at you a little later. You hear that? What's that? I hear forest. Whatever that sounds like. Forrest, how you doing, man? What does a forest sound like?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, doing well, doing well.
Hey, man, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, bro.
Yep.
You know, let's just kick this thing right off here. You know, everyone's always like, you know, certain candidates have come out and talked about Bitcoin and crypto in a positive light. Vivek Ramaswamy, who was a candidate, has dropped out. Robert Kennedy, pro-Bitcoin. And now, the man that everyone likes to, a lot of people love, a lot of people hate him, but he potentially might be the next president of the United States. And he finally was asked a question specifically about Bitcoin. And here is what Mr. Donald Trump had to say.
Huge.
China obviously has its own push in the Chinese digital currency. But isn't the next logical step for you to embrace Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin obviously is decentralized. The government can't get its hands on it. What about Bitcoin with all the young people, including African Americans, who are very interested in it?
Well, a lot of people are doing it. I always liked one currency. I call it a currency. I like the dollar. But a lot of people are doing it. And frankly, it's taken a life of its own. You probably have to do some regulation, as you know. But many people are embracing it. And more I'm seeing people wanting to pay Bitcoin. And you're seeing something that's interesting. So I can live with it one way or the other. I've always liked one really powerful thing, and that's called the dollar.
Yeah. Would you guys call that an endorsement, right? He says, I like one currency, it's the dollar. People wanting to pay with Bitcoin. I'm fine with it either way. Is that really an endorsement, or is he just kind of trying to
from these high-level politicians, especially in the U.S., it's feel like it's one side of the fence or the other, right? It's fueling terrorism, and it's a means of payment for all evil, right? That's what we hear from Elizabeth Warren and a handful of other senators and congressmen, is that it really doesn't serve any purpose other than money laundering and fraud, right? And
hucksters.
Yes, but honestly, just to acknowledge that it's here and it's not a fraud, I think is a win from the president, especially knowing where he used to stand, right? He used to, I mean, he didn't go out right and say it was poison or it was the absolute worst thing on the planet, but he has had a hard stance against crypto when he was active president in the past. So obviously made a lot of money with NFTs, made a lot of money in the Polygon Ethereum ecosystem. Maybe he's had a taste of the crypto gains.
He's got a lot of money in that Trump coin too, you know?
Oh, he doesn't have Trump.
Forrest, yeah, he does.
Does he?
But because they send him the coins.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't he, Forrest, isn't he the number one holder of the coin?
I don't think he's the number one holder, but he's got a couple $1 million worth of Trump coin that was sent to him when it was only worth like 50 grand, and it's just gone nothing but up. He's also got a bunch of Ethereum. He's got his own NFT line where he earns royalties. So he's at a point where he literally cannot come out against crypto. He cannot be anti-crypto. If he came out as anti-crypto, people would be like, okay, well, what's with this NFT line that you launched? How come you hold Ethereum? How come you have NFTs on Polygon? Right? Yeah. Why do you it would make no sense. But also, I don't think he's like super pro crypto or pro NFTs or pro Bitcoin. I don't think like he said, he likes the dollar, and that's a fine stance to have. I think it would be too risky to come out as super pro Bitcoin. I think that would just be like, as running for president, that's like a really tough stance to take. But I do think he's just bending over and picking up the easy votes, right? You're going to get a lot of votes now. I wouldn't say a lot in the grand scheme of things, but there's a fair, like the left has come out and Elizabeth Warren have come out so hard against crypto, so anti-crypto, that they are pushing votes to any party that's just not anti-crypto. So I think he'll pick up a lot of votes there as well.
Brokyoshi called it vote mining. I kind of agree, because I don't think that was a true endorsement. It was like, it's cool. I won't stand in your way. We'll pass some regulations, right? As long as it doesn't hurt the dollar, because obviously Donald Trump is a dollar maxi.
I don't, honestly, even if I was running for president, I genuinely don't think I would. I don't think I would endorse Bitcoin too heavy if I was a United States president.
Why is that?
Just because
for sure
we're the world reserve currency, man. I mean, it's way too big. Like I would rather say, hey, let's have somewhere where we coexist. You don't want to get rid of the dollar. I mean, Bitcoin's priced in dollar, right? Like, how you gonna get rid of the pair that it trades on, right? And so, or poop on it. So obviously, that's about as bullish it can get, in my opinion. Other than kind of,
fair enough,
doing some oddball. But
I want to give a shout out to Juglins. Said, hi everyone, first time catching a live. Juglins, welcome. We're excited you're part of our community now. We appreciate you, my friend. Now we are having record. Well, before I get into anything else, I want to give a shout out to our channel sponsor, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you want to learn how they can help your business scale, grow, and maximize your networking, IT, and cybersecurity, which is becoming a real issue. We heard about the phone companies going offline, AT&T being a big one. So cybersecurity is something that can completely wreck your business, and you want to make sure that doesn't happen to you, and you can focus on making money. Visit BlueWireTech.com. Now, we have had record-breaking days, record-breaking weeks, and a record-breaking $50 billion in trading volume for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. Where do we stand now? This is from BitMEX Research. A pretty low day on the 21st, which was 2 days ago, which was Wednesday.
Yesterday as well was pretty low.
Yeah, yesterday was low, but not lower, right? So on Wednesday was the first negative day we've had since January 25th, coming in at negative 35 million in flows, with Grayscale reaching the highest since it was at 220 million in outflows on January 30th. So outflows have upticked for Grayscale. Yesterday, though, was pretty good. Only 55 million in outflows, net 251. BlackRock was not number one in inflows. It was actually Fidelity. Fidelity brought in 158.9 million, BlackRock 125.1. And then the Van Eck one, the Van Eck HODL, which saw a massive surge, that only saw 2.9 million in inflows. Gentlemen, any thoughts on where we're at with the ETF and the volume? You think this is just naturally starting to slow down? Do you think it's going to maybe come in waves again? I guess I'll start with you, Forrest.
I think it's, I mean, $300, $400, $500, $600 million days is just not sustainable. I mean, that is an absurd amount of money. Maybe it could be sustainable for another couple of weeks. We'll see. I would expect this to normalize somewhere. And again, this is just a total estimate, but a bit of a guess, but somewhere in like the 10 to 50, $70 million range per day. I would not expect, $500 million to flow into Bitcoin every single day for the rest of the year.
Why are you so bearish?
I hope
Forrest?
so. That would be phenomenal. What's up?
Why are you so bearish, man? I'm kidding.
That's not bearish. I mean, so you look at the total, miner supply of Bitcoin. right now is like around 25 million a day that's potentially being sold by miners. If we normalize somewhere around 30, 40 million, that is more than offsetting the outgoing supply or the Bitcoin emissions. So if we just normalize around 25, 30, 35, 40 million per day coming into these Bitcoin ETFs, that is phenomenal. And look, I mean, this is now this is now an ETF that is tradable by asset managers, and a lot of fund managers are going to just be simply allocating a portion of their clients' net worths to this. So every time people put money into their paychecks, or not money into their paychecks, every time people take money from their paycheck, automatic, every time they get a paycheck and money goes into their investment portfolios, that is inflows into Bitcoin now. So I think we're going to have, a strong long-term bid for Bitcoin, and I think it's incredibly bullish.
Amazing. Rob, you have any thoughts? You kind of agree with Forrest here? And you got to remember, he's saying 25 to 40 million will outpace the miners selling. That number gets cut in half in 2 months, right? So it goes from 25 to 40 million to 12 to 20 million, right? Just to outpace the miners as far as if they sold every single Bitcoin that they mine. What are your thoughts on what he said, and kind of what are your thoughts on what we should see moving forward?
As far as what's going on with the miners, I don't know, man. I don't. I'm not too plugged into those analytics. I just know that these guys are going to be in a position where they're going to be in a situation where they're going to be incentivized to hold, right? Because their profits are going to be cut in half, and so if they sell up into the halving, then you're making a pretty good profit. But I just feel like you're going to hold, right? You're not gonna go one day where your supply is cut in half. The next day you're going to just continue selling at a 50% loss, right? Or at least 50% less than you did the day before, or the week before, the month before. And so we've seen these miners operate at bare bones when we're in the bottom of a bear market. I'm sure they've probably buttoned down the hatches so that way they'd have accounted for the loss in revenue from selling.
I mean, Rob, Core Scientific came back from their bankruptcy.
That's what I'm saying. So I think there's going to be with the ETFs ramping up as much as they are with volume. I mean, you can look at inflows but just straight volume. How much money is going into these ETFs? How fast they're occurring Bitcoin. You add the supply shock on there as well, and I think the miners are going to see a price if we're not at new all-time highs at that point, which I think we are, but I think miners are going to look like, hey man, you know what? This supply shock's going to really ramp up. Let's just hold. Let's just not sell. No, there's got to be some percentage of miners are going to be like, we're not going to sell for a month or two. Like we're fine. We've met our obligations,
especially if energy gets cheaper, right? Which it potentially can.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's always a factor, but I just think that the miners are going to the reason the halving it makes the price go up is because the miners are selling for what it costs to produce Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's realistically, I mean, it does get its price from what is traded on the order books, but it's also a representation of how much energy it costs to run it, right? And so that's why the Bitcoin miners operate at a slim margin or slim profit margin, with the exception of those high peaks in a bull market. Profitability is it's not anything insane there on Bitcoin, and so a lot of times it reflects the price of, one, the loans that you got for the ASICs, and two, the energy cost. And so, I don't know. There you go.
I mentioned a long email thread of Satoshi was released. Well, here we go. And I confirmed with both Rob and Forrest before the live show, they have not seen this yet. So I'm curious to get you guys' live reactions here. So Satoshi's earliest collaborator, Marty Sirius Malmi, just released their entire email history. It's about 120 pages. The most significant addition to the archives of Bitcoin's unknown inventor. Here are some of the important findings. So big shout out to Pete Rizzo. So he asked how Bitcoin might scale in the future. Satoshi theorized the network would have a maximum of 100,000 nodes, which we are at about 50% of that today. So 50,000 nodes currently running. And what I'll do, guys, when I'm done is I'll drop this link in the description of today's live show so you can go read it for yourself. He also believed that Bitcoin mining would be less energy intensive than the legacy banking system. He said, unfortunately, proof of work is the only solution I've found to make peer-to-peer eCash work without a trusted third party, even if I wasn't using it secondarily as a way to allocate the initial distribution of currency. Proof of work is fundamental to coordinating the network and preventing double spending. He also foresaw at least one viable non-monetary use for Bitcoin, backing the timestamping use case, saying, indeed, Bitcoin is a distributed, secure timestamp server for transactions. A few lines of code could create a transaction with an extra hash in it of anything that needs to be timestamped. I should add a command to timestamp a file that way. He also described the difference between Bitcoin, DigiCash. So this is from David Chom. I'm not going to read that. And then he said he was concerned about legal risk in launching Bitcoin, saying nothing, he was uncomfortable with explicitly labeling it an investment. He didn't also come with a lot of people thought he came up with the term cryptocurrency, but he didn't. And then saying in 2009, July, he said he was tired, saying he needed a break from Bitcoin. Here he also explained Hal Finney's absence. Said Hal isn't currently actively involved. He helped me a lot defending the design on the cryptography list and with initial testing when it was first released. He carried this torch years ago with his reusable proof of work. He discussed how Bitcoin might gain adoption. Of note is his emphasis that Bitcoin was easy to obtain, given that you could mine it on a computer, not so much today. And in June 2010, someone offered to donate $2,000 to Satoshi for his Bitcoin work, and he had that money sent to this person's address. Satoshi was pretty adamant about that early users considered Bitcoin free. And then he worked on Bitcoin on Christmas Day. And he saw Bitcoin taking a hold as a way to trade other investment currencies. Satoshi removed the language, Bitcoin, anonymous, no. So a lot of good stuff in here, man. So a big shout out again to Pete Rizzo for breaking this entire thing down. And I will be dropping this link. But I guess I'll ask you first, Forrest, any takeaways from this?
This is fascinating. I'm going to definitely read through these and look into it. It's just such a big mystery who Satoshi was. I mean, I know a lot of people theorized that Hal Finney was Satoshi Nakamoto, and Hal Finney was obviously an early collaborator, it seems. But if these messages are mentioning Hal's absence from work, then that would point in the direction that he is not Satoshi Nakamoto. It's very interesting, and I think these are from the Craig Wright case, who's like claiming he's supposed to be not the Satoshi Nakamoto, which is kind of wild. But very fascinating stuff. Definitely worth going through.
And a lot of people who are saying, Hal Finney was Satoshi. Peter McCormick did an interview with Hal Finney's wife, or it wasn't Peter McCormick. It was, I believe, Natalie Brunell. And she just talked about how she wished people would stop doing that because she keeps getting harassed. And so, so out of respect for that, we won't talk about that. But interesting that these guys worked so hard, they all kind of took a break, and then Satoshi just completely disappeared. Forrest, a lot of people in Las Vegas are very superstitious, right? How could you compile such a shitty resume? Okay, so first, analyst at FTX, risk management at Silicon Valley Bank, CEO, office of CEO at PayPal, senior financial analyst at Lyft. We saw they had that gaffe, right? And then manager of the Gemini team, right? The language learning model for Google that's under fire for refusing to put out images of people with a certain skin color. Robin, is this the biggest L in the history of anyone's resume? I mean, FTX, risk management of Silicon Valley Bank.
I mean, guys got firsthand experience on identifying failures in a company,
That could be a potential positive.
I feel like if you're like, all right, you're not allowed to put in any safeguards, all you're allowed to do is recognize faults. Like if that was his job, like, oh, look, you're just here. Just raise your hand.
What are we doing wrong?
If you
Tell
see,
us.
yeah, if you see something that's hella suspect,
See
just
something, say
just put your hand up. You're not allowed to put any rules or regulations in.
Guys, I also found an interesting record. So a 29-year-old Transylvanian is looking to break the Guinness World Record by smoking 800 cigarettes at once. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. All right. With that being said,
Why?
that's a good question. Why? I don't know. Rocco, is just interesting to me. So this is, I don't know.
You trying to go for the?
I'm not going.
I
no,
thought- I
over
thought
800.
maybe-
He's like, yeah,
I can do 850. No.
but
Okay.
hit 700 vapes at the same time.
Anyways, so before we get into the markets, I feel like I'm the more conspiracy guy out of the three of us here, right? Rob is more practical. I feel like Forrest is kind of in the middle. And I'm kind of lean more to the conspiracy, right? I'll cook something up in my brain. But a few things that are happening that may be cause for concern. So JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, has dumped $125 million worth of his JP Morgan Chase shares yesterday. He has never sold a single share of his company since he became CEO in 2006. This coincides also with Jeff Bezos selling $8 billion worth of Amazon stock from his personal stockpile of Amazon shares. So you got news of like celebrities building bunkers, Mark Zuckerberg. You had the whole outage yesterday. I don't know, man. I feel like my brain is really starting to go that way. What are your thoughts here? And Forrest, I'll go with you first, Forrest. You brought up a few times a potential economic headwinds that maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but probably soon, right? We know this economy is built on a very fragile stack of cards, so to say, right? House of cards, so to say. With money printing, inflation, the debt ever increasing, de-dollarization continuing globally. What are your thoughts? Is this something that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I saw these headlines, particularly the Jeff Bezos ones. I mean, conspiracy view is like, hey, they're selling to get out ahead of economic turmoil, but I'm not even convinced that they know for certain if and when a recession's coming. Obviously, they probably are much more plugged in and have analysts and information that might not be available to the public. But also, you just think about it, like put yourself in their shoes. They're both like old to begin with, right? So they should be taking less risk in volatile markets just from that standpoint. And they've also been invested in these companies for a very long period of time. Jamie Dimon since 2006 and Jeff Bezos since he founded the company. I don't think there's at that age anything wrong with taking profits. Like, what's the point in having the money if you're not going to use it to some degree in your old age?
But why now?
Yeah, I mean,
Forrest?
also,
Why now? So you're saying everything is just a coincidence?
No. I mean, certainly, like, why now? You look at the yield curve. The yield curve has been inverted, like, number one recession indicator. It's been inverted for over a year. Like, yeah, I don't know when or how a recession is going to happen specifically, but it's not looking good. So, I mean, I don't think that this necessarily means imminent recession next month. Maybe they're just starting to take money out, and it takes a year or two for us to see a recession, or maybe we get a mild one. Who knows? Maybe we see a blow off top before then. I don't necessarily think that this is like a big recession signal. I think it makes sense for them to be taking money out of the market, though. I mean, if you have the vast majority of your net worth in volatile assets and the yield, like, I'd be doing the same thing. Just I'd take one glance at the yield curve that's been inverted for almost 2 years now, and I'd say, oh, well, most of my net worth is in Amazon stock. It is a good company. It's probably not going to. I don't think Amazon's going to go under. But I'm definitely gonna be taking some money out. Same thing with JP Morgan, right? All the banking stuff happening, all the banking crisis, all the stuff that they have exposure to, all the potential interest rate risk going on. Yeah, I mean, I would be looking at the yield curve and taking profits.
Robin, are you more in line with me or Forrest here?
I think it's just when it comes to conspiracy theories, I usually think there's some truth to it. And where does it land on the the level of conspiracy. I like to think that there's a lot more conspiracy and things moving behind the scenes when it comes to governments. And so private companies, I think that a lot of times business is just business and people are out here just trying to make as much money as possible, especially when it comes with publicly traded companies. I think that because of your transparency, um, there's only so much you can keep behind a curtain without running the risk um, of getting into some kind of legal trouble and even going to jail. So, um, is there some kind of truth to a theory that the kingpins of the world know more than we do and they're making movements early? Sure, I'm sure there's something of that nature, but I think it's a small factor. I think it's just business being business and large companies trying to look out for themselves, especially in a market that right now you understand that it's probably a good spot to sell stocks, knowing that we're going into an election year and that private sector and the markets usually rally at this time. So makes a lot of sense if I was holding stocks to sell right now, as far as a smaller time window.
I don't know, man. I'm more in the conspiracy camp. You can't tell me two of the most influential people in the world, two of the most richest people in the world, are just randomly selling, right? I know you take profits, right? But $8 billion, Jeff Bezos, J.P. Morgan, after what is that? Almost 20 years of not touching his shares, decides to sell it now. Bunkers being built. Like, I don't know. Just maybe that's just me being a little too crazy. Anyways, let's jump into the markets. But first, I want to share a tweet from Caleb Franzen. I want to bring him on the show again. It's been a while. Bears can't hold Bitcoin below 51K. Price has fallen below 51K in 5 out of the past 7 days, and all of them have been snatched up by buyers. Where's Bitcoin right now? Currently at 51,151. Forrest, can we take a look at a BTC chart here? I'll kind of pop mine up here, and then you can bring yours on. We're kind of starting to maybe see some consolidation here. On the daily, we're throwing the Bollinger Bands. Price is starting to move towards this median line on the Bollinger Band. If we zoom out to the 4-hour on BTC, kind of more the same, but a little more extended, right? We are making lower highs and lower lows, so this could potentially turn into a falling, potentially wedge or channel. So what are you seeing for us on the Bitcoin chart, and how are you trading this market?
Yeah, so I think I'll share my screen here. I think the most important indicator to pay attention to is the Bitcoin ETF flows. Just think that positive flows are going to equate to price going up, just simple supply and demand. So again, in this market, as long as Bitcoin ETF flows remain positive to some degree, it's like I'm poised bullish, right? I don't see any reason to be bearish unless flows turn negative. As long as money's flowing into Bitcoin through these ETFs, then that's bullish. All right, so a couple things. We saw the 10x long margin pressure level. We saw consolidation onto this level before breaking up, right? We saw some resistance and then consolidation on the 5x long margin pressure level before breaking up again. And now what we're seeing is some consolidation on the 4x long margin pressure level. And all this means is, if we take our local low here, as soon as price drops below 51.4, the incentive to buy on 4x long leverage and push the price back up increases, right? That incentive increases. So as we drop below 51.4, there's more buyers and more leveraged buyers entering the market and starting to push the price back up. We're still below 51.4. You can kind of see the wick there, but this has been our inflection point, right? We've just been kind of consolidating above and below it. And my guess would be that we'd get a retest of 51.4 here soon. But this is ultimately what we saw happen at 42.8. Now that doesn't mean that we can't get rejected and come back down. And, that my next level down would be around 48.2. That's where I would think that some buyers would step in. But as far as how to trade this on the short-term time frame, I like, what happened there? We'll get this chart pulled right back up. Not sure. Personally, as far as trading this in the short term, I prefer to be trading alts right now, just because Bitcoin's holding support and then alts are like seeing these large dips and then strong bounces. So I'm more focused on alts. But as far as how to trade Bitcoin in the short term, this is ranging sideways. This is just a sideways range. So one of the patterns that you want to look for is very simply either A, buy the range low, which if you did that today, you're already up, from 50.6 to 50, you're up $500 per Bitcoin. Or look for a sweep of the lows, right? For some liquidations, look for a wick, and we reject from 51.4 and we come back down here and retest these prior highs, sweep the lows, right? And then once we sweep the lows and reclaim this level of 50.6, that's your trigger to get long and then target the top of the range, right? So it's just quite simply like this. Now, it's a little bit riskier, right? You could have already bought the range low and be up. But if you want to be a little bit more patient and wait for a higher percentage trade setup, I'd say wait for the liquidity underneath these lows to get swept, right? Which may or may not happen, right? And then target the top of the range. And that's going to give you pretty decent risk reward with a relatively tight stop loss. So aim for maybe 2.5 or 3 to 1 risk reward. Alternatively, you could also target the next leg up, or wait for a breakout and some candle closes above 52.5, right? If you want to wait for the breakout, which I prefer to buy range lows versus breakouts, I think buying range lows is almost always more forgiving. But if you want to wait for a breakout here and for a decent swing trade, you could use 51.4 to hide that stop loss, or put your liquidation or your stop loss down below 51.4, and you can start targeting higher levels like 57.8 after we get some candle closes up here and try to catch the bulk of this next leg. And underlying, I do think we are bullish here. I do think we are going to see another leg up. Whether we see a correction first or not is yet to be decided. We also have this little downtrend line here, right? When you see that broken, right, and support on top of 51.4, that could be another entry point that you look at and keep a stop loss down below here. But ultimately, I do think we're probably going to see another leg here. Right now, we've only seen about a 3 or 4% correction out of Bitcoin from the highs, and we're consolidating sideways pretty tightly. So I would lean more bullish here than bearish, but just do keep in mind that 10% plus corrections in a bull market are pretty common for Bitcoin. So if we do see a big liquidation or a big crash, know that 48K would be about a 10% drop, and that would be pretty par for the course in a bull market. And I'd actually be a big fan of deploying capital into alts at this level for Bitcoin.
Amazing. Forrest, I'm taking a look at the rest of the cryptocurrency market here. So ETH is teetering around that 3K level. Some of the biggest gainers over the last 24 hours, we had Uniswap. So we'll go, you know what, actually, let's just do that right now. So Uniswap had a massive rally, right? So Uniswap token pumps following governance fee switch proposal. The Uniswap Foundation is proposing an upgrade to the protocol governance so that its fee mechanisms will reward token holders. Specifically, the foundation is looking to upgrade the protocol's governance to enable the collection of protocol fees, distribute these pro rata to token holders who have staked and delegated their uni votes, and continue to enable governance to be in charge of core parameters around the fees. Following the announcement, the uni token jumped from $7.24 to over $10, currently sitting at $11. Forrest, what are you seeing on the Uniswap chart, and what are your thoughts on what Uniswap is doing? Is now with uni holders actually getting rewarded? Can you see this token going from, it's at a market cap of about 6 billion, maybe to getting to 50 billion, 60 billion, maybe a 10x from here? What are your thoughts?
So I'd have to run some numbers. I'll share my screen here again. 1 second. I'd have to run some numbers and look at what kind of volume Uniswap does, and what rev share percentage they are proposing, to get an idea of how high this could potentially go. But obviously, if governance only holds it between $4 and $8, and now you're adding rev share, it's probably going to do many multiples, or multiples from where it's at now. Would be my expectation. So yeah, obviously, this, as soon as that came out, we're on the daily here. This ran super hard. I would say if you're trying, and I don't know if it's had a pullback yet to $10. It hasn't. Let's zoom back out to maybe like the 3-day. I would say the disciplined thing to do would be to like try to catch a pullback to $10 if you're trying to take a position in Uniswap. Obviously, this proposal has not been passed yet, so if it got rejected, that would be bad news for Uniswap. Probably see a full retracement. If we do get like a big correction out of Bitcoin, something down to like 48K, like we talked about, maybe Uniswap could see a full retracement before that proposal gets passed and we go higher. But yeah. $10 would be the level that I'd be looking to enter if I was looking to enter a Uniswap trade. But I think the bigger news story here is what has changed. Like Uniswap could have done this a while ago. In fact, they've talked about it for a long time. So why now versus prior? And my guess is that they have some sort of fundamental knowledge or confidence in the SEC Coinbase case. That's the only thing I can really think of. And I'm not an expert on that case, but why do they feel comfortable adding rev share to a token now, even before this case has been resolved and like this kind of whole securities thing has been put to bed and we've gotten better regulation? Obviously, in my opinion, something has changed to make them more comfortable and feel like they're not going to get sued by the SEC for giving rev share out to token holders. Maybe they'll do it in a way where you have to actually earn your rev share by voting on governance, and it won't be passive. Which, if you're actually doing something right, you're actually voting, then that could kind of skirt the laws of the securities laws and make it more more likely that you're not a security than if you're just passively handing out rev share. But I think the big thing here is much less what this means for the Uniswap chart and what this potentially means for like the industry standard of normalizing rev share, because there's a lot of tokens out there that are strictly governance tokens that could follow suit and turn on the revenue share switch. Could be some big opportunities in the future.
Awesome. Rob, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Uniswap, and does this change the investment thesis for people who are potentially looking at the Uni token? It's not just governance, it's not just voting. You actually earn a share of the revenue that Uniswap, the platform, generates. And hey, guess what? They're the largest DEX on Ethereum, which is the largest layer one, and they're also the largest across the board.
Yeah, do you think my thing is do you think they'll stay at the top of the totem pole? I mean, that's up for debate, right? I would lean more towards they would, but there's a lot of competition out there, and I'll just say this: the liquidity is king, right? And that's where the liquidity is. So until the liquidity is rivaled somewhere else, then at that point, there's a lot of dexes out here that are moving, man. Solana's got a grip of dexes out here that are that have a ton of liquidity and TVL. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really care much for Uniswap, man. I don't care much for governance tokens. It is interesting that they have rev share, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, but before this, and so do I look at the Uniswap token now like, holy crap, like I have to get some? I don't know, man. I maybe I have to look it over on the weekend before I would just jump and rush into getting some.
Rob's not ready to commit. He's scared. It's okay, Robin.
Are you?
No, definitely not. I want to take a look at a Polygon chart here. So, Forrest, you tweeted Polygon was undervalued, right? You tweeted the price should go up. Yesterday, we'll share some news as to maybe why Polygon started rallying, but it got up to $1.04. It's currently trading under $1, just barely. And what I'm seeing here, I mean, on the daily, so this is pretty significant. Maybe, I don't know, Forrest, maybe a cup and a handle. What do you think? What do you think? And then just to kind of measure this potential of what kind of move can we see if this thing does play out, measuring the depth of the cup. And let's just take a point here halfway through the cup. Let's say we do get a breakout. We're looking at about $1.17 Polygon. If we take a look here at the Lux Algo indicators, we have the matrix oscillator here. So the hyperwave is starting to flow to the bottom. Money flow is pretty even, although it is currently still red. We do want to see that money flow flip green. You can see kind of what happens as money flow flips green. It kind of supports the rally of the token. And so this is something the Polygon, obviously long-term from an investment standpoint, we're pretty bullish on. But is this are you kind of vibing with this potential cup and handle here? And then with the cup and handle, how would you trade this setup here?
Yeah. So I'll share my screen here. Matic chart. So yeah, bullish on Matic for a couple reasons. I think it's just kind of it's similar to how like everyone hated Solana for a while. I feel like Matic has been catching a lot of heat for whatever reason, despite the chart looking really, really good off of these lows here around 77 cents, where we're starting to see some acceleration up towards the top of this range. And now we're seeing consolidation towards the top of this range. So using our 4-hour chart and our margin pressure levels, we simply see that there's just a lot of resistance here at $1.04. It's been present there for quite a while, right? But there's some support here down at 92 cents. We have a long and a short margin pressure level at $1.03 to $1.05, essentially. Once we get through that level, like you said, I think you called out $1.17. We've got pretty clear skies until 117. That's the next level I've got up here. And it's also a structural level over here from all the way back of April of last year. Right. I'm personally looking for this to reprice closer to $1.50. I'm looking for this to trade all the way up towards 156. I know that's pretty pretty bold of a move. But I just look at the on-chain metrics and the trajectory of the user base, and you compare them to something like Avalanche, and they're very comparable to something like Avalanche. Yet Avalanche trades at a 50% plus higher, 50% to sometimes 100% higher fully diluted valuation than Polygon does. You also have a lot of good things happening for Ethereum. You've got the Ethereum, Matic is a layer 2 for Ethereum essentially. You've got the EIP 4488, which is going to make gas fees lower on layer 2s. You've got the narrative around a spot Ethereum ETF. You also have Reddit. This big spike yesterday was because Reddit came out and said they have Matic on their balance sheet, which is wild. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're probably going to see some consolidation here. And if you want to look for a long position, I'd look for a retest of that 104 level. Otherwise, I think this is one of the coins where I think you can just buy spot here and stomach some volatility and probably be okay. If you're looking for a leverage trade, yeah, you want to time your entry and have nice tight invalidations and stop losses. Sure. Maybe look for, if we do get a pullback in the market, look to buy on 92 cents. That seems to be a strong level that's now held twice. But otherwise, I think you can probably buy spot here and do pretty well for yourself. I mean, obviously there's risk. But yeah, I'm looking for this to move up towards these prior highs that occurred in February of last year. I think people should not underestimate the Polygon's team to have strong biz dev. I mean, the fact that Reddit they got Reddit to put Matic on their balance sheet is pretty impressive. You don't see a lot of other chains doing that. So yeah, looking to trade towards $1.50 or so, ideally.
Awesome. Forrest, you mentioned Reddit, so let's just jump right into it. Reddit discloses Bitcoin and Ether holdings in their official IPO filing. As part of their filing, the social media platform disclosed that it invested part of its excess cash in Bitcoin and Ether. It also said, as Forrest mentioned, it acquired Polygon as a form of payment for sales of certain virtual goods. Reddit said it may continue this strategy in the future, saying, quote, from the filing here, we hold cryptocurrencies and experiment with blockchain technology, which may subject us to exchange risk and additional tax, legal, and regulatory requirements. So as Forrest mentioned, pretty big deal here. Robin, do you have any thoughts on Reddit and this, Bitcoin, ETH, Polygon, Matic on their balance sheet? Is this the beginning of a trend of what we're going to see in 2024 as more companies kind of adopt this MicroStrategy strategy?
MicroStrategy strategy? They've been pretty progressive and outgoing, especially when it comes to crypto. I mean, there is tons of Reddit forums. I know this is kind of outside of this, conversation, but there's a lot of community in crypto. And even Reddit itself kind of pushes against the traditional social media platform. It gives an audience an opportunity to kind of have conversations almost in a decentralized way, or at least more decentralized and a little bit more open conversation than you would get on, say, X or on Facebook and some of the other platforms. So, uh, crypto in itself is very similar as far as its stance against the mainstream, right? You have fiat, and then you have crypto. It's almost like taboo in some circles or regards, or at least in the traditional sense. And Reddit itself goes against the traditional way of having open discussions and conversations in social media. And so it fits in their wheelhouse. And also, we've already known they've had exposure to crypto. They've already been an avid supporter of crypto. They've brought it into their ecosystem as far as from the front end side, from the consumer level. And so, not at all surprised that they're as bullish as they are when this came out. So
What about this? Does this surprise you, Robin?
that does, man.
Let me give you some context here.
Yeah.
Avalanche halts block production amid Inscription Wave launch on February 23rd at 12:02 p.m. UTC. Avalanche's primary network experienced block production issues, seemingly halting the network. Developers across the community are currently investigating a stall in block finalization that is preventing blocks from being accepted on the primary network. We have this tweet from one of the co-founders, Kevin Seknicki. Investigating Avalanche's primary network block production issue right now seems to be related to a new Inscription Wave launched about an hour ago. Obviously, this is some esoteric bug from some edge case, which should be handled quickly. Likely some mempool handling issue with inscriptions that hit some untested edge cases. I'll ask you first, Robin. Is this something that you're worried about, or is this something like, hey, saw Solana go do something similar, and look, they're fine?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a computer science engineer, but I'll say that.
Which is good because a lot of people watching are not. So if the people if you have
It's concerning, but as Forrest mentioned last week, it's par for the course in new technology that is ever evolving and changing in real time, having updates and upgrades and forks without taking the system down, right? I mean, we see how many updates we've had on Windows and all of your iPhone or cell phone devices. There's no shortage of updates. And why is that? Is that it's upgrading or patching broken pieces of software. This is all done offline, so it's less complex, right? As far as the traditional way of updating software or addressing bugs. But now this is all done in real time. So to have expectations of not having any downtime or hiccups or issues, it's unrealistic.
Cardano's never had downtime,
As long as they've had a slowdown, right?
but now downtime. They've never had their blockchain come to a halt. They've had degradation in performance, right?
But if they did, it wouldn't be. Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is against the prophecies words. Like it's the fact of the matter. And at
saying
some
these
point,
are overhyped. So you're saying outages are overhyped.
at some point, even Cardano is going to run into some roadblocks. Like the thing is that their use case and utility is not where it's going to be, right? We see transactions as far as how many transactions are done daily on Ethereum, on Bitcoin, on Solana are more than Cardano. And we're big Cardano fans here, but what does their network look like, and what does their uptime look like? What is their next upgrade look like that maybe a small bug got through 2 years from now, when their transactions and throughputs are 10x or 100x. And so I don't give anybody a pass. I don't think anybody's, I don't even think looking forward to say 100 years, I truly don't believe that even Bitcoin will have 100% uptime. We've already We've already had 3 outages. We've had 3 outages on Bitcoin in 12 years. So you give me another 100, I think it's going to go out. It's going to go down at some point. It's going to be some kind of BIP proposal. It's going to be some kind of a minor issue. I don't know. And so I don't think anything's bulletproof. Nothing.
Boris, do you share the same thoughts? Are you selling all your AVAX?
No. I mean, like, look, if you sell all of a coin every time the network network goes down, like there's not any cryptocurrencies you can hold. Like, what cryptocurrency can you hold? And people say, well, Cardano. Well, Cardano does less than 1 transaction per second right now, and that's not a knock on Cardano. That's just the truth. And some of these other chains that are trying to push the limits of how many transactions per second you can do, and they're heavily used, they're going to go down. Like, and this is just a side effect of trying to do something new and difficult. It's not easy to create a chain that can handle high throughput. You look at like Rob mentioned, Bitcoin in the early days Bitcoin got hacked. There was a dude that just like straight up hacked Bitcoin, printed a ton of Bitcoin, right? And Satoshi himself had to go in and fork the network, right? Like these things, and people want to say like, oh, Bitcoin's like this perfect network, 100%, like close to 100% uptime. But it's like in the early days of anything, when you're trying to push the limits and try something new, like it's not going to be perfect. And I think people have like these crazy expectations that like no blockchain should ever have 100%. It's like, and the analogy extends to literally anything, right? Like Netflix in the early days, they mailed out movies. Do you think like that was a new and revolutionary business model? Instead of going to Blockbuster, you could get movies in the mail. Do you think that they had hiccups? Do you think that they sometimes sent people the wrong movie? Yeah, probably, because they were trying something new and you got to work out the kinks. So yeah, I mean, I'm not selling, AVAX here. It's not a big deal at this point. Obviously it becomes a bigger deal if it happens with regularity or it's somehow able to be repeated and used as an exploit. It's a problem if they're not able to address this in the long term, but this is just a side effect of innovation. iPhone, right? The iPhone wasn't perfect on Gen 1. Otherwise, they wouldn't have released the iPhone 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to the iPhone 14. So you're just going to continue to see upgrades and performance improvements. And I think it's just going to get better. But this is a side effect of innovation.
So, okay, so I agree with you, but let me play devil's advocate here. So there are other chains that have not gone down. And some chains have had similar, some have had even more processing, right, transactions than Avalanche. Are we just supposed to like, it's okay, you got to pass? Like,
It's about which chains? You the only one.
I was gonna say which chains?
Which ones have done more transactions and never went down? Cardano, and it just started smart contracts in 2021.
Okay,
and so it's had 2.5 years of smart contracts. Doesn't have the transactions that Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin do. What happens when it's 100 times more throughput? On top of that, it has another 4 different proposal upgrades that it's already went through. And to think that even, I mean, like, give me one outside of Cardano. That's what I'm saying. It hasn't even been tested realistically. Not to the throttle that you get on what you're getting on ETH and on Bitcoin. Now, I would like to think that they'll have uptime. They won't go down. I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of research papers, they run a little bit more methodically slow. Sure. Yeah. I give them the benefit of doubt. I think I think they'll have they'll have an outage this year? Probably not. Will they have one next year? I don't think so, but I wouldn't be flabbergasted and I wouldn't sell or exit my position if they did.
Okay. I want to know what the chat thinks. Are you guys concerned about Avalanche or any layer 1 going offline? Put a 1 if you are for yes, put a 2 for no. I'm curious to see what the chat think. I'm not worried myself. I'm in agreement with both of you. I just think it's important to get the other side. Maybe someone watching is, their biggest bag is Avalanche. They see the network going down. They're freaking out. I mean, if you take a look at
as long as you don't lose money, man, as long as you don't lose money. If you lose people's money, that's a problem.
Well, imagine you're a subnet on the network, right?
Well, no. I mean, like, you lose like genuine amount of value. Like when Solana goes down, it's not like people's wallets are drained, right? It's not like people lost their life savings. It's not like their entire
But
portfolio
Robin, you can argue businesses lose money, right? NFT,
I'm not saying there isn't some downside. I'm not saying that there isn't revenue lost. But what I'm saying is that if you don't lose money, like you look at Harmony One, for example, you look at Ronin Chain, you look at a large swath of history where chains literally lost millions of dollars of customer funds because of an exploit. That's hard to come back from, right? That is difficult. And even Ethereum, when they moved from the ETH Classic to the new one, and they had a hard fork, it was because money was stolen. It was exploited, and there has to be gigantic changes to come back from that. Gigantic, and even then, you might not come back. Harmony One might be dead forever, bro.
True.
Ronin, it came back, but maybe it doesn't last. Maybe people just never regain confidence in that.
You know, this might actually be a bid. This might actually be a good place to bid Avalanche here. So this is AVAX on the 4-hour, right? I put on the Fibonacci retracement here, and it looks like we're right at that 786 level. Forrest, will this be a good place to maybe enter a long position on AVAX?
Let me pull up an AVAX chart here in just a second. Actually, I've not charted this today, so
I'm kind of feeling like maybe this might be a good long spot on AVAX here, man. Might be putting a trade in today.
All right. So if I was going to, I'm sharing my screen here on Avalanche. I got our margin pressure levels set up. Let's actually go out to maybe the daily. So we've got our swing low and our swing high here. Personally, I'd feel more comfortable. And again, we might not get this type of pullback for Avalanche, but personally, I see potentially an inverse head and shoulders playing out here. And where we actually get that confluence, it would actually be closer to $33, $34. Now, I'm not in the business of predicting where something is going to move. I see that we are in a downtrend right now, and I see that we are bouncing off of this green 4x long margin pressure level. So look, if we reclaim this above 37, there could be your entry for a long position. But what I do see is where we have quite a bit of support on a deeper correction and start to form somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders here, down at 33, 34. So down here, I'd be looking for like some liquidations to happen, maybe a wick, and then a reclaim of 33, 34 for a long position personally. But that's not because that's more because I'm not personally like itching for an Avalanche position right now. If I for a long position in Avalanche, that's where I would be setting my buy orders or waiting to see a reclaim before taking the position. That's not to say we may not bounce here. I mean, we may see a bounce here. There's plenty of support in this region, especially if Bitcoin picks up the pace here. We could see Avalanche bounce from here. But where I'd feel personally more comfortable is a little bit lower if we end up seeing that type of pullback.
Yeah, you know, we are seeing Avalanche start to tighten on the 1 hour. I don't know. I'm kind of, you know what?
Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into a long here. There you go. On AVAX. So what we're using right now is we're using BingX. We're gonna go AVAX. Our trades were in the green, but obviously they're kind of in the red now. So we're gonna go here and I'll kind of zoom in so you guys can see. And again, guys, the most important thing you want to do is make sure you are on isolated and not margin. Because if you are on margin and you these things start getting liquidated, you will get your entire account drained. So this one, let's do $150. I want to make sure. Okay, so 20x 34. No, that's a little too rich for my blood. Let's go down to. Let's see what 12x looks like. 12x looks like $33. No. 5x 29, so 29.53 would be the level here, and I'm just gonna go back and kind of verify. Where's the Bollinger Band? Let's throw this off. So I want to be below, right? And what I'll do is I'll throw on the volume range here, kind of see where we could potentially get some bids. So if we fall, we should get some bids right at $33, which was a key level here. It was resistance, which we ultimately broke through. It was resistance here as well around this area. This was back in mid-January. We did wick down here, caught it at support right around $32. So that's really the level that I'd be looking at. Like, hey, I want to make sure my liquidation point is hidden under there, just in case Avalanche, like Forrest says, does decide to spill off a little more. Ideally, you would want to be below this $27 level, but I feel pretty comfortable being under $30. And so, which is where we're at now. So 5X, let's see if we can bump this up to a 6X because I'm a little greedy. 6X, nope, we're going to go 5X. 5X, $29.53. We're going to go long here on AVAX. And an order should have filled, and yes, it did. All right, so we are currently in 4 long positions, right? We're in a Polygon Matic long. We're in a Stacks long that we've had for quite a while. That one is in the red. We're down 15% on that one. But I feel pretty comfortable. This one, the liquidation price is under $1.99. So Solana, we're in a long position as well. Liquidation is at $89. Definitely not worried about that one either. And then our new one, which is AVAX, which is already in the green. So we should cash out now for 0.2%. Congratulations. Guys, if you want to use BingX, the platform you see that we put a majority of our trades on, there is a link in the description. You will get some free airdrops and some free money. So a big shout out to that. So with that being said, that's all we got. Guys, if you would like more Forrest, he's got his own YouTube channel, Sistine Research. He also has a research hub and indicators that you can use and a special Discord as well. That link is in the description of this video. Lot of great stuff there. I know every single person that is on camera right now has made money with the research hub. So big shout out to you, Forrest. Anything else you guys want to say? Anything before I tornado us out of here?
Not good, bro.
Forrest? Any last words?
Sounds good.
Good. Rocco?
No,
Thanks for
have a
having
nice
me on,
weekend.
guys.
Yeah.
Good. Forrest, we appreciate you as always, brother. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll see you again more than once next week, hopefully. Maybe Robin, why don't you go get a roast beef sandwich after the studio today, man? It might be good for you. Anyways, with that being said.
It's going to be in the news again.
Local Las Vegas man for the second time visits Chiba. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Big thank you to Forrest. Have an absolutely amazing weekend. Come back on Monday. We'll see you then. Peace.
Sin City, crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Named according to your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.